by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine named Tim, right? Now, Tim, when he got locked up, he had a 10-year sentence to do, right? And when I met him, by the time I met him, he had already had a couple of years in, right? And he was about to go up for parole and have a chance to get out. You know, he had 10 at 30, if I'm not mistaken. So after about 3 years, he's getting ready to go up for parole and see if he was going to have an opportunity to go home. And everything was working out fine. But when he went up for parole, he got denied. They said that he didn't have enough time and they wanted him to do at least half of the time, right? That's what they do, right? They'll tell you that you got a sentence that says 30% or whatever it is, right? But most of the time, they want you to get at least half of that sentence done, depending on your circumstances and all the stuff that went on with your case, before they let you out. Now, Tim wasn't no bad dude, y'all. When he was out on the town, he had a job, he's married, he had got two kids, and ends wasn't meeting. Now, I know that sounds familiar to a lot of y'all out there, right? Where you're putting in the work and everything, on the outside, the people that's looking in on your situation, it looks good. And like a lot of people, the situation ain't straight. Like when you're sitting down at that kitchen table or wherever you sit, when you get to looking over those bills and you just start to thinking, I need to do something more because I'm treading water. I'm not making it, right? And Tim was in that same situation. So he decided, he didn't even tell his wife, he decided he was going to get him a little side hustle, sell him a little smoke. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that green, right? So everything was working out fine for him. You know what I'm saying? For a while. He's making a little money, paying a little extra bills, and he's able to take his wife out, to eat every now and then, take his kids, to little events that they wanted to go through, and all of those types of things, right? And life was good. Until one day, when Tim pulled up at the school, some people that he normally do business with away from his wife, they approached the car and they asked him, did he have anything? Now she's sitting on the passenger side and the kids are sitting in the back seat and he's looking at them like, don't. I'll holler at you later. So the kids are not aware of what's going on, but the wife is. She's seeing what's going on and she's watching him. And while he's pulling off, she asked him, she said, what is that about? And he's like, that ain't nothing, baby. I'll talk to you about it later. And she said, okay, because she respected the fact that he was uncomfortable in talking about it in front of the kids. And she didn't want the kids in the back seat to hear what was going on anyway. Not to say that they would have known what was going on, but just this grown folk stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So when they got home, she started questioning him once the kids got put down to sleep. And he didn't really want to talk about it, but she said, who are those people pulling up to the car and how do you know them? And all of the questions that come along with that, right? And he started to answer those questions, but he was embarrassed and he was like just reluctant to do it. And she was just pulling it out of him. And when she finally got the full story out of him, she told him, you need to stop and you need to stop right now. But see, Tim didn't listen. Like a lot of us, he didn't listen. So he kept doing what he was doing, trying to get, to make ends meet and all these different types of things until one day he got popped. And when he got popped, listen to me. When he got popped in front of his kids, in front of his wife, in front of her friends, at a cookout at another friend's house. See, one of the things about in the game, when you start selling, narcotics and doing all the things that you do in the streets, right, the more clientele you get, the more likely it is that your name is going to end up in the ear of the police. And that's what happened to Tim. His name ended up downtown. And once them folks started watching him, they saw the pattern, right? Everybody gets away with it when nobody knows your pattern. But once they hear your name, they start looking, start watching, seeing what's going on. And in this situation, it was easy because Tim wasn't seasoned at this. This was his first rodeo, so to speak, right? So when they popped him, he went to court, embarrassed his wife and his kids and all this. And they had no clue as to what was happening, right? And they were traumatized to the point to where they just would cry all the time. And when he would call, the kids would ask, "When are you coming home?" Dad is saying all of those types of things to him. And the wife, she didn't know what to tell them. She said, "Dad is going to be home soon. He's just away from the house for a while." They didn't understand what was going on. And they didn't want to be honest about what happened because they didn't want to traumatize the kids any further. So they lied to him and told the kids that Dad is home, away from home for a while on vacation, taking care of some business. That didn't make sense to them because they know what the police look like. They know what's going on. And now all the other kids that were over at this cookhouse with their parents, and they all saw this, now they were talking at the school. You feel me? They were saying, "Your dad is a drug dealer. Your daddy do this. Your daddy's in jail. Your daddy got arrested by the police." All of that is heaped down on them. Heap down on those kids, and they have to deal with that. And the wife, she's embarrassed beyond words. Now the time comes where Tim wants to get a visit, but those first 3 years he didn't. He talked to him on the phone, and it was hard. The kids are growing up, and now when they talk to him on the phone, there was more and more distance between them, more and more distance between them, and he could feel it. So when he went up, he was so sure that he was going to make it. He was sure that he was going to make it, but when he went up, they denied it. They told him no. And like I said, they usually want you to do 50% of the sentence. So he had 2 more years to go if it held true. And they did come back with the final decision and put him off for 2 more years. 2 more years. So now he knows he's not going to be there, but now he wants a visit. Now he wants to get a visit. He wants to see his wife. He wants to see his kids. You know what I'm saying? And those same problems that the household they were having in the household before he left, they're compounded now. And he's telling her he wants to help her. He has to do something. It's the same old story, y'all. Same old story. But she ain't going. She's not going. So he's trying to convince her that, look, this has to happen. I got to do something. She said, if you do it, you'll do it without me. She said, I don't want no parts of that. But she wasn't going to divorce her husband because she loved her husband. She just didn't want nothing to do with it. Whatever he had going on, that was on him. And if he was wanting to do something and send it home, yes, she would take it so she could pay the bill, but she didn't want nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. So Tim makes sure that everything is straight. He gets the visitation forms approved, and his kids get on the list, and his wife is on the list, and everybody coming to visit, and everything seems to be fine, except for every time it's time for the kids to leave, they cry and they want their daddy to go with them. They don't understand. That's why it's important to tell those kids the truth. Just tell them the truth about what's going on so they can adapt to that and adjust to that. But every time they left, they would cry, and it would break him too, and it would break the wife. She was struggling with that. She was struggling with it. But she had to do what she had to do to keep the house maintained. But see, Tim, turns out Tim is a big risk taker, y'all. The same habits he had on the streets, he was doing in the penitentiary. What you do in practice, you're going to do in the game, y'all. You understand what I'm talking about? Talking out of both sides of your mouth, saying you don't want to do this, but you're doing this. Yeah, all that, just like that. So here's what Tim did. Because he understood the game, and he had to make sure that he was able to do some things, right? But in the penitentiary, it's different. You have to make allegiances, you know what I'm saying, with a lot of people. And now he had aligned himself with some individuals in the penitentiary that were up to no good. But he, like a lot of other people in the penitentiary, told himself, I got to do what I got to do. So he played the game. Go along to get along. And one of the guys that he got introduced to told him, look here, man, if she don't want to bring it, get you somebody that will. So you can take care of the business. He said, I got the mule that'll bring it back. We just need to get it here. And everybody in here is always looking for a route. They're always looking for the lane that they need to be in so they can survive this experience. Remember that. So now Tim gets introduced to this female through this brother, right? And now he's talking to this female, and the female is digging him. Tim ain't slow. She digging everything that he's saying, right? And Tim is weighing it up in his head. He's trying to figure out what to do, to how to get what he needs without crossing that line and violating his vows with his wife. But he's talking to this girl every day like he's talking to his wife every day on the phone. And he could tell she's starting to dig him and she's vibing with him, right? and he has to figure out what he's gonna do because he needs to get what he needs. He's gonna manipulate her like everybody else does. The game is raw, y'all. Now you're gonna have to tune into the next episode, and it's coming right behind this one, so don't worry about it. You're not gonna have to wait till the next day. So tune in to the next episode so I can continue to tell you how Tim played this thing out, right? Because it's gonna get better, it's more fascinating, but it's a point to this. I want y'all to understand what it is that I'm trying to say. Now this has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.